A Daring Adventure, or Nothing at All, Part 2. I gotta roll, 'cause I thought that the fakest and cruelest gods of all were so sad that they stole it all. So I'll spend the whole day funky, I'll spend the whole day stoned, acting silly like a monkey just to help me feel at home. Is it the end or the beginning? Or how about another ending? How about when you know true love is never ending? A Daring Adventure, or Nothing at All, Part 2. Learning the real and make-believe, inverted, archontically possessed, hexed purpose of Saturn, the planet Saturn itself, is a key to waking up from the nightmare. For you see, on Earth and inside our brainwashed minds, its functions have been hijacked, inverted, usurped, replaced, and displaced. Because, as Laura Eisenhower says originally, or on the higher octaves of Saturn, is self-mastery. Saturn represents structure, rules and laws, and has been taken over and used to create this planet of the slaves. Now, how about this, folks? If the rent wasn't high, I'd never talk shit about it. I'd say, okay, well, you live in that beautiful paradise, wherever you are on planet Earth. Could be a paradise, if it's especially a warm place like this, beautiful Carolina. And so, but when it's like the West Coast, certain sexy towns, and horribly repulsive large cities on the West Coast, in New York City, you're going to pay $3,000 a month for your box and be around all that crime. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm a country mouse. So I was really happy to see my sibling purchase this property along with my physical creator here. So how could I make 444 videos that helped hundreds of people to wake up, and it seems like I did nothing? Well, we live in a capitalist society, and it judges you by every penny you earn and nothing else. It doesn't care if it's even moral. So it cares about how you make, how much money you make, which is morality to its sick, twisted religion of money. So if I did not earn a living doing this, or make money selling courses, books, start a group, or rule over others, it is not thought of as anything at all, according to this sick world, as long as we are all forced to obey the surrogate god money. Now, like, again, I'm not saying, I agree with Osho when he said, he likes money because without money it would take days to make a trade, and that's why as soon as they turn on CBDC, especially if they say the paper, fiat papers are worthless, it's not only going to be violent, but the people that can't participate in that are going to have a hard time, because some people try to be honest with their money, and with no proof and corporate entities in charge, I'll never know how much I have actually served the awakening on YouTube, for example, with all the CIA guys and NSA beings in there messing with it from a money perspective. Was it pennies in a bucket, or really actually helping? You see, signing the agreement to work with these beings called YouTube, as its own karma. So you see, money is not really necessarily the problem. It is the invisible one's control over everything that determines the value of a work. That's how brilliant the dark side is at mind control and number control. Yeah, I mean, oftentimes, if we don't watch out, this is what happens, especially subconsciously with a lot of humans that are so controlled by it anyway. In nature, as a farmer, you'd have to work a variable, at least 3 or 4 hours or a day and watch your crop. I don't know, maybe a lot more hours, maybe a lot more portion of your day in the harvest. It is a yearly cycle for a ganja farmer, an outdoor ganja farmer, a greenhouse ganja farmer. It's a year, unless they do light dep, it's a yearly cycle. As a hunter, you'd have to, usually have a good rest after you fed the village or your family with a feast, after the kill and feast. There would be some type of balance. But in the wage slave, the inverted one's wage slavery matrix system, there is no balance. If you live in L.A. or New York City, you slave if you're not wealthy. In the out of control Luciferic capitalism, there are no checks and balances at the top. We've already established this, with this channel and 105 others. A disabled person or a lord may have no responsibilities, no love, no self-respect, or respect to others. If they believe in their entitlement, if they're so narcissistic and sick in the head that they believe they don't have to do anything because they're entitled, because they have the riches, or because they're so sick. Whereas a wage slave may have no self-respect for her own soul's true worth, as she cannot even access it if she doesn't do what she loves. Now, these people that live in these crazy rich places and do what they love, that's a different story. Looking at the rent in Santa Cruz, it is obvious if you are not wealthy or a high earner, it is a place of box slavery. Like New York City, LA, Seattle, and other desirable or popular big cities, slavery is the way of the matrix. And unless people pool their resources and live like one time in the west side of Santa Cruz, across from Safeway, they caught 40 Mexican people living in this one smaller one-story house, 20 in bunk beds in the garage. I remember when they did that, they'd always have people sitting in chairs in the front lawn so that they never, nobody was going to bust them ever went in there. They got away with it for a few years, but I'm not saying you should break the law, but it's an example of people that know how to survive in regions such as that, who are not wealthy. Unless people pool their resources and live in intentional communities, these places are going to see a mass exodus. Here, I don't even know. I mean, this is more threatened by geoengineering than economics. Look at the California debt this year. I didn't even write it down. It's something crazy large that Newsom has run up, and he just passed Proposition 1, barely, like 50.2%. And passed, this is the most silliest thing he did recently. He passed an exit tax for the wealthy. Like, if you're rich and you try to move out of California right now, Newsom is going to try to make you pay, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of dollars, maybe a percentage of your income. This is how sick these totalitarian, socialist, dictator, leftist types actually are, like Newsom. Whereas they just stole all of my belongings because I was in my sacred spot that wasn't the legal box, to successfully get me out of my campsite. Seeing how our bodies, minds, and souls are psychically and physically separated, by tethers to our legal box, most humans. I mean, I've had skin illness for the majority of my life now, so I understand why people feel the need for a hot shower every day, because that keeps it at bay, that keeps it away. And so I understand why people need separate private space. Again, that's been weaponized by the Dark Lords, is what I'm telling you. Can you see how great a job that Lucifer and all the Dark Lords have done in separating most humans physically and spiritually? There would be no narcissism epidemic if it wasn't for believers in the sickness, because that's where it started. Okay? And of course, never forget, anyone you know who suffers from that personality disorder, they had to be traumatized, heavily traumatized, broken family, whatever. Can you see how great a job the dark side did in preventing many folks from awakening? Add the fake-ass past tense attitude of the woke and the insane rinse, and voila! You are stuck as a somnambulist or zombie narcissist. Okay? Everybody must take care of their body, mind, and spirit, and this is used against them. It's the normal human condition, unless you're, an empath, martyr, or, borderline who lets the narcissist walk on them. That's the normal human condition in the brainwashed matrix. Okay? So, everybody must take care and everywhere through coercion and fear to keep us stuck in the fucking 3D material world, when the boxes are what folks are forced to dwell on constantly. Like I say, all these towns and cities and states, like everywhere, almost everywhere in California, they're at least a lot of it, they're forced to pay insane property tax. So even the landowners, the landlords and the homeowners, the property owners, they have to stress. They're constantly dwelling on that subconsciously. add a fake housing shortage, which again is engineered by the controllers, the invisible hand, the puppeteer, the land mafia, who, by the way, in places like Santa Cruz, they leave mansions unoccupied. Half dozen mansions empty for 11 months out of the year. So we have the fake housing shortage and criminalization of homelessness recently. Just now, like I say, last week, they fully criminalized it. They're not going to be able to articulate it 100% till they get the funds in October. So you got a few months if you're a homeless person or houseless. In California, you might have a few months if you're peaceful to get the hell out of your situation. And now, in coastal California, for example, everyone will be in a social Darwinist contest. Because if they force everyone into the box there, that means everyone is going to have to compete in this fake-ass box contest, which, they try to impose everywhere they can, the dark side, the controllers. Craigslist is such a fake reality, a false reality, guys, often. With the rent ceiling non-existent, the false version of Saturn will rule every place, whether it's here, there, anywhere that it suffers from that. Saturn rules in those places. Most often, in that case, rent and property tax is slavery. Okay, because they don't have there's no social control over what it's going to be. The market, the money makers get this. The market gets to choose what it's going to be. So since there's no control, how could it be anything but slavery? This is why people need to make exodus from those regions and move into community if they don't want to be stuck in that rut of financial hell. Yet, if sex itself, reproduction, sex, families, and love, has also been monetized, almost forever been monetized, like a transgender, all of life has become inverted or wrong to that person. To some degree psychologically, most of the time, unless you're just a sheerly selfish materialist. Of course, to be taken seriously as a spiritual teacher, particularly without a congregation, I would need a wife or a sexual partner, especially without a box. Of course, there's some truth to these ancient concepts. There is a formula to have a life, a physical 3D life. You need a man and a woman, and as well as a life in the matrix. And your freedom has to be displaced through the, I always thought when I watched the movie The Lord of the Rings that it was this Gollum character is literally, that Tolkien did a wonderful, beautiful job with this Gollum character of showing you what the shadow side of your marriage is like. Because the Gollum is the way that the marriage partner behaves. And also being invisible is what the shadow part of marriage must be like, because it's the opposite of the problem I've had, self-ostracization by being myself my whole life and getting targeted for that. The opposite of that, the marriage partner gets to be invisible. Your freedom has to be displaced or you are rendered ineffective, it seems, in the inverted sick matrix. Is hierogamic union necessary to be a spiritual teacher, for the ascension, to be enlightened, to become one with the fifth dimension, the divine goddess Sophia? What do you think? Let me know in the comments what you think about that. I cannot take for my survival and give enlightenment without a box or a sex life, according to the majority of humans. It's just part of the matrix and the belief structure of the world, which is based in materialism. Again, fortunately, the inverted matrix world is sick and dying, and the freedom movement is rising up. Unfortunately, narcissistic personality disorders, most often, while they're not only on the rise, exponential rise, if we don't heal it, they threaten to circumvent almost every movement. Because whoever the person is, who's the leader of the movement, usually always is a horribly narcissistic person. So get as close to the four immeasurables as you can to truly wake up, folks. Okay? Joy, friendliness, equanimity, compassion. All four of these qualities, my translation being from this town is friendliness. Some call it loving kindness. But the Buddha called these the four immeasurables because they're immeasurably good, or they could be evil if you don't have discernment. If you're friendly without discernment, of course it could be very evil. But it's an immeasurable quality either way. And I don't like to make lists, but I love the Buddha's four immeasurables because they help you to transcend that horrible normal human condition. Here I can have a legal box to stay in, but with little to no THC or no legal THC, sharing with a person with bad CNPD and a seeming NPC, it seems to be to be a motivational. It seems to be very amotivational, the situation, even though it's in some ways paradisical here, the perfect weather. About 4 or 5 months out of the year, the perfect 85-degree ocean temperature. But because they are using weather weapons to slowly drown this beautiful old city, Charleston, and I never know when in the next decade, tops, my guess is that if geoengineering is not stopped, particularly this beautiful city will be under the Atlantic Ocean. Okay? And it's not a joke. And I don't like to say it, but it's like the state of, if you go to Geoengineering Watch YouTube, he did a beautiful video about how the state of Tennessee just outlawed geoengineering a week ago. And I'll never know when. I'll never know when it'll happen. even if I master gray walling and codependency and other forms of, and other forms of laziness, like not doing the shadow work, death by painful sickness is my future. Well, I was having too much sweets, and what I thought was a gum abscess turned out to be what happens if you don't go to the dentist and a tooth is really ready to go. My whole jaw was swollen up, and I was trying to heal it myself, like the narcissistic side of my shaman archetype, thinking I could do it all myself. I finally went to the medical university dental clinic and got it pulled out. What is the answer to all of this? Go on the grand, daring, awakening journey. That I have to be 100% clear of the dark side. Do the shadow work, 96% of the shadow work, or I might die. Go on the grand, daring, awakening journey, even if only within the mind. If you can't move or travel, or change your job or your living situation, or if I remain here in this house, if you are disabled, reject being a full-time, collapsed narcissist. Serve somebody, like Bob Dylan sang in his song, you gotta serve somebody. Serve somebody however you can. If you reside in a place in planet Earth with sick rents, share your room. Live in a community. This is, again, we all are going to have to embrace community and probably farming soon. If you are asleep, wake the flunk up. Without THC, I have very intense dreams. And last night I dreamed I was in a place with these amazing, kind people, and I thought, wow, these people are the most perfectly receptive people, folks to teach the truth to. And, I don't know if it was Charleston or YouTube, or both YouTube and Charleston, and all the different communities I regularly interact with. But these people, they were consistently distracted, and I was never able to get them to tune into this channel. It could have been everyone on planet Earth, that I haven't fully gotten over my social retardation, and I was making messes, and because that is often what happens if I am not very clear in what I say and what I do. I had a gum abscess, and for years now that I lanced several times. And it was interestingly enough that stress and eating sweets, too much sweets, triggered it. And but then since I had that tooth pulled on Thursday, I was checking on why it's, of course, been coming back. They didn't give me antibiotics, and I was thankful, but so I just got more oregano oil, and turns out that not only the acrylamide for my avocado oil chips, turns out that not only the sunflower oil in my hummus, but I've been having this habit of eating a whole container of hummus as a protein for dinner. And it turns out that about 99% of all the hummus and all the chickpeas have glyphosate content of various amounts in it. Sometimes shit tons of glyphosate. Even the organic ones, man. It's like 20%. Check it out online. 20% of these. You know what glyphosate is? It's Roundup. So, of course, if I had cancer or an infection still in my abscess after getting that tooth pulled, the cute little dentist said, oh, the infection all came out because it was there for 8 years. I told them it was there for years, but they didn't offer me antibiotics or anything. And I just ate Roundup last night for dinner. I'm going to have to quit eating hummus. Embrace the daring journey. And this is an example of things, like I don't want to face that, but it's something I'm going to have to face that I don't want to face. Embrace the daring journey of awakening, because it is March 2024, folks. It may just be now or never. If you're not willing to wake up now, it's going to get could get really way worse. Whatever your situation, you can awaken yourself with discernment, courage, self-respect, and the true love of the Creator, Christ Sophia, finding herself, even after, in some cases, hundreds of lifetimes, in Lucifer's sick, inverted conceptions of reality, and having their memories wiped in between. Awakening is an inside adventure. It's an adventure in your mind. And there's nothing, there are very few things that could be more exciting than that awakening. I'm going to end this video, again, dedicated to Helen Keller and all of the brilliant people. I mean, imagine the brilliant disabled people I've met and heard of. Imagine this. When she was 18 months old, she became deaf and blind, and she overcame that. Well, I think this is a perfect analogy for the awakening that humanity, many of you, are going to have to go through, getting over being deaf and blind. Okay, so this is another reason why I'm calling this video that. This is another quote from Helen Keller, and this really also exemplifies the problem humanity has. The few own the many. The few own the many because they possess the means of livelihood for all. The country is governed for the richest, for the corporations, the bankers, the land speculators, and for the exploiters of labor. Is that who I am? The majority of mankind are working people. So long as their fare demands, the ownership and control of their livelihoods are set at naught. I'm going to read that one more time. So long as their fare demands, the ownership and control of their livelihoods are set at naught. We have neither means nor rights. Okay, Helen Keller graduated from Harvard after becoming deaf and blind at 18 months, and she experienced, the slavery of the big city. We have, as long as their livelihoods are set at naught, we have neither men's rights nor women's rights. The majority of mankind is ground down by industrial oppression in order that the small remnant may live in ease. Helen Keller, 1911. If you enjoyed this, if you haven't already, make sure you click subscribe and follow me on Odyssey or Rumble if you want a more deeper, darker, blood red pill about what's really happening and how you can awaken. And if you have the courage, as I always say, create a great one, my family. Loving you.